Well, hello everyone. It's Daniel Stoneman here, Director of Explore Careers. I'm absolutely thrilled to welcome Gary Edstein, the Chief Executive of DHL Express, to the Executive Series of Explore Careers. Thanks for joining us today, Gary.
Yep, pleased to be here. Thanks, Daniel.
Now, Gary, we obviously our audience is schools around Australia and students and career advisors and parents. The DHL brand is quite an iconic brand in terms of a visual. It's everywhere. People see the trucks and the branding. But from an employer brand, there'll be a lot of students out there who may not know what you do, what you're all about, and was hoping you could introduce them about who DHL Express are in Australia.
Yeah, thanks, Daniel. We're part of the Deutsche Post group, so we're owned by the German Post Office, and the German Post Office has 4 divisions, and one is DHL Express. So we're a global international express company. I suppose if you looked at our competitors, we compete against the likes of FedEx and UPS. But if you look at our type of model, we're obviously very similar to some of those big domestic players here in Australia, such as Australia Post and the likes of Toll. But we're very much international, right? We do cross-border movement of shipments. And when you look at our profile, we're part of the largest global logistics company in the world. Deutsche Post employ 550,000 employees. And within DHL Express, of that 550, we're 120,000 of the 550. And we have a reach of 220 countries. So when you look at our network, our global network, we're in more countries than the United Nations. So it's quite an extensive network. And we say we're the most international company in the world.
Wow. I guess, talking to the students, at the moment who are obviously listening to this, from, your perspective, being at school, do you remember, what you did at school and importantly, when you were at school, what you wanted to be when you left school? Are we in the same type of direction that you thought you were going to be in?
Well, to a certain extent, Daniel, when I was at school, I did, what school kids did. I did a part-time job. I was a labourer whilst I was at school. But when I left school, I really wanted to join the aviation industry. And my first job was actually with a company called TAA, Trans-Australia Airlines. That was swallowed up back in the early 90s by Qantas, and it's the Qantas domestic arm right now. So I wanted to get into that aviation industry, and so I was 11 years with Trans-Australia Airlines. And then I wanted to have a change, and I came across this international express company. Back then we were just a courier company, just moving documents around the world. But these days we're moving more a lot of online parcels, B2C and business to consumer or business to business. So that's where my career started. And I thought, do I want to go into a so-called international career? The thing that really attracted me to DHL was that it was international. And it gave me opportunities to actually travel overseas and work overseas. And that's one of the reasons why I joined DHL back in 1986. So I've been with them for 34 years. I started as a sales manager in Victoria. And over that 30 odd years, I've had about 10 roles in DHL, and it's culminated into being CEO of DHL Australia.
Wow. So is the international, element of your business in terms of, when a lot of students see, international brands or international businesses, one of the common questions that we're asked when we do surveys and we speak to schools is, are there opportunities when I come into the Australian arm of a business? Is there opportunities for me to grow my career internationally, go overseas for a few years, have some different roles, then bring that back to Australia? Are those type of opportunities available at DHL Express?
Yeah, most definitely. And that's what, again, Daniel, attracted me, was to be able to work overseas. So I've worked in New Zealand, I've worked in Asia, and I'm back here in Australia. So truly an international reach and opportunities for kids, school kids, whatever, to join our company and to work overseas. We've had a lot of Australians that have worked in our businesses in all parts of the world. So a fantastic opportunity to not just build a career here in Australia, but build a career internationally.
Your business is, I guess, a combination of blue collar and white collar in terms of obviously the workforce. So when we're looking at, I guess, some of those, I guess, different types of opportunities within your business, and I think if we're talking to the audience, students at the moment, what are some of the, I guess, entry points into the business? I think if you look at blue collar, there's particular roles, perhaps maybe in factories through to, graduate programs through to the white collar arm. Could you just touch on a little bit about what type of, I guess, early entry points are available to young people within your business?
Yeah, well, when you look at how to get into DHL, there are definite entry points. Obviously, you can become a courier and work through the courier ranks. We've got, several hundred couriers working here in Australia. You can start at the gateway. We've got a gateway in every international airport here in Australia. So they're the operations agents that do the sorting of our freight, the loading and unloading of our shipments that go on our freighters. We've got 70 services a week coming into and out of Australia of DHL freighters. They're dedicated 777s and 767s, etc. So that's an entry point. Another entry point could be sales and marketing. We've got a significant group of sales specialists, either field sales or telesales. You can get into finance. We've got a big customer accounting group. So when you look at a business like DHL, we've got very similar, business streams or roles that any other company would have. HR, you've got IT. So plenty of entry points to move into our business. And, one of the greatest things about DHL is we're growing. We've got significant growth that's occurring, and this is on the back of what I just explained to you, was that business to consumer. We are like fueling the export and import capabilities of Australian businesses. So distribution of products around the world needs companies like DHL. We are very much involved in global trade, and when you look at online retail, that's just growing significantly, especially obviously with COVID, this particular pandemic. The international online retail is experiencing significant growth at the moment.
And what are some of the preconceptions and misconceptions? Obviously, you're a big business. There are a raft of obviously different opportunities available within the business, as we've just touched on. Probably young people see the DHL business as, a courier driver, and their understanding might be, to that level. But what are some of the, I guess, the preconceptions and misconceptions you find that people have about your business?
I think, Daniel, it may be not as attractive as joining a passenger airline. That's maybe a lot more appealing to join, some of the major international airlines like Singapore Airlines or Qantas. They're very much household names. We're a household brand as well, but we're not moving people. We're moving shipments. So it may be not as attractive as what a passenger airline would be. But right now, especially as we go through this pandemic, the aviation industry is going to go through a huge amount of transformation, and we may not see international passenger flights coming back for 2 or 3 years as much as what we had before. But what's actually still operating are freighters. And we have a fleet of 250 freighters in our network. Wow. And we link the world with these freighters. And we're talking significant freighters such as I said, 777, 747, 767. They're carrying up to 100 ton of capacity. And we're moving, for example, every night we have a freighter that leaves Cincinnati with all our shipments, and it travels down here to Sydney. So you can order something online, and within 2 or 3 days, it'll be delivered to you here in Sydney. And then you've got all the complexity of that shipment movement. It's got to be picked up by a courier in somewhere in the States. It's got to be customs cleared. So we have an online customs cleared portal with the regulators here in Australia, with Australian Border Force. It's cleared in the air, right? So we have thousands and thousands of shipments every day, and they have to be specifically cleared. And there could be duties and taxes to be paid for that particular shipment. We've got to process it here in our gateways. We've got to move it to other parts of Australia. And at the end of the day, the courier has to finally deliver it. And all of that is driven by data, right? It's transparent. You can see the movement. And I think all the kids on this particular webinar or podcast they've been shopping online. They can go online and they can see the checkpoints that are occurring with that shipment. One shipment from, say, the States to here could have up to 20, 25 checkpoints or stages as it goes through the network and getting final delivery down here. So to me, it's quite an exciting process. When you think we here in Australia, we can link to this global network, but this global network is moving millions of shipments a day, right, throughout the world. And we connect people. Our purpose that we have in our organisation is we connect people and we improve lives, and we want to make this place a better world. And we've got things like a lot of social community projects. We want to be carbon neutral by 2050. We want to go out and provide help to a lot of countries that need assistance, especially when there's natural disasters, for example. We've got a group, Daniel, in our business. We call it DRT, Disaster Recovery Team. So staff can volunteer to become involved in the DRT. And if there's a typhoon or a big cyclone in a Pacific island, we will mobilise that team. And that team will go out to that island, support that particular country, so that the movement of goods can get through the airports to the right places during that particular crisis.
Wow.
These are the things that we're doing behind the scenes.
Yeah. And then I think as you touched on there, in terms of obviously COVID, and when you talk about, I guess, your brand compared to some of the other brands that are maybe well known, or maybe have got a bit more shine around them, like the Qantas and those types of businesses. Obviously, right now, as we've touched on, aviation has been quite affected in terms of obviously COVID, and then obviously in terms of jobs. So one of the big things that are coming out of school when students are now trying to work out, I thought I knew what I wanted to do, but a lot of the industries have been severely impacted. I need to now start making sure that we understand these types of things can come into our market, and some are quite robust, and some can be affected. So from your perspective, you just look at obviously DHL, and you look at, say, a Qantas, for example, where you may have two types of people looking at those two types of businesses. Obviously, DHL in this market is obviously a very, very robust business, and something that students should be considering. Yeah,
and a good example for that is, when we talk about global trade, although there's a certain degree of, protectionism occurring, you're not going to stop global trade. And you do need these global, supply chains to continue to grow and develop. And for a school student that wants to look at a career, this is a fantastic career to get into, because it's going to continue to grow. You know, as you said, we've got big winners and we've got big losers when it comes to COVID. You know, and unfortunately, in the aviation business, some of these big passenger airlines are going to go through enormous restructuring and some incredible pain. But when it comes to logistics companies like DHL, we're going to continue to fuel that growth of global trade. And a good example is the vaccine, right? We've got a project going on right now, and this is not just DHL, but it's the whole industry. We've got to distribute 10 billion vaccines once the vaccine has come out, right? 10 billion. So just imagine the logistics of transporting 10 billion vaccines to, virtually everyone in the world. And these vaccines, they have to be transported in a temperature-controlled environment, because the vaccines have to be between, I think it's negative 20 and negative 80 degrees Celsius or something. So the whole industry is working together to come up with a distribution model to distribute these vaccines to the whole world's population. What a fantastic project to be involved in. And I suppose what I'm saying is logistics, is the fuel that continues to grow this world. It really is.
And you look at, I guess, your business, and there's obviously with students, there's male students and female students, and obviously there's a lot of, I guess, preconceptions, especially with some particular industries. For example, mining and minerals. A lot of young female students think that's a very male-dominated industry to be getting involved in, and they kind of think, oh, that's not for me. How is, I guess, DHL Express addressing diversity in the workplace? In terms of your makeup and where you want to be over the next, 10 to 20 years?
Yeah, we have a very specific diversity equality program. We have specific targets that we want to achieve. For example, we want to have 50% of our female management group by 2022, and right now we're at 39%.
Wow.
So we want more females into our organisation. We do very well when it comes to customer service, for example. We've got a huge customer service department up in Brisbane, 200 staff, right? And when you look at the ratio, it's more obviously female to male. But when you look at our gateway, it's obviously the ratio's the other way. So we want to get more of females involved in our gateway operations. Our courier group is very much leaning towards the male population. So yeah, we've got programs to try and address that difference in the numbers. So yeah, big focus on diversity.
Yeah, and outside of just, I guess, the gender equality side of it, is there any particular other areas, whether or not it's Indigenous Torres Strait Islander, disability, those types of areas that are of interest to DHL at the moment?
Yeah, we partner with Qantas. That's the Academy for Indigenous students, and we sponsor, I don't know how many, but it's a fair few Qantas students. So we want to encourage more of the Indigenous population to join our workforce as well, and also, the disabled. We definitely want to focus on that.
Yeah, and I guess when we're speaking to the students, but obviously career advisors, teachers, and parents, obviously a big influence on young people in terms of where they're going to end up in the future. What's some of the messages that you would like to get out to parents who may also have a bit of a preconception, a misconception about transport, logistics, and pointing their students in that particular direction? Any advice that you want to give them, or any words of wisdom in terms of pointing their students in between, or to your particular industry or company?
Well, I suppose I can just look at my career, right? And when I left high school, I didn't go straight into university, right? I did, night school and did several diplomas in marketing, etc., right? But I explored industries that I had a passion for, right? And my passion at that time was for aviation. And, initially I thought I wanted to be a pilot, but obviously, being heavily short-sighted, I was never going to get there. But I still wanted to be a part of that industry, and I had a passion for it. And I think you've got to look for organisations that have a strong culture, right? And organisations that have a strong purpose. I talked about our purpose of, we connect people and we improve lives. I think people want to, and students and future employees, they want to have a role to play, and they want to be able to join an organisation where they can be part of something that's pretty special and pretty important in this company. And I think they want to also join a company that wants to make the world a better place. That they're involved in these kind of projects that I talked about, such as Go Green and Go Teach and Go Help. Because big corporates, they have a role to play, to give back to this amazing world that we live in. So I think they're the key messages, and the reason why I've stayed for 34 years in this particular company was because of the culture. It's a real family culture, Daniel. We care, we look after our staff. We have a whole range, of support aspects, right? Training and development. We do an enormous amount of training, internal training for our staff. We've got this internal training program called Certified International Specialist. It's CIS, right? And actually, just stay with me for 1 minute. Sorry about that. So, Certified International Specialist. It started 10 years ago because we had a bit of an issue. We had to get out of domestics where we shouldn't have been in the first place, and we were going through a bit of pain. So we had to look at our culture, and we needed to work out globally how were we going to really get back to what we do best, and that was International Express. So they came up with Certified International Specialist, right? So you get a passport, right? Called Certified International Specialist, right? And every training program, a module that you do, you get a sticker, right? And things like when you hit I'll give you an example. When you hit 30 years, right? They celebrate that, right? Wow. And you've got this 30-year sticker, right? And you get this message from the global CEO, and you get all these other stickers, right? When you complete a training program in DHL, because it's called Certified International Specialist. So from a courier to me to our global CEO, we've got a passport, right? And that just is, I suppose, is true testament that we want to develop our people to become certified international specialists and certified international managers.
Well, look, I must admit that's the first passport I've seen of that kind. I must admit I haven't had a CEO step out and grab their passport and show me something like that before. That's amazing. I think that's absolutely fantastic, and I think people would really cherish that. And by the looks of things as well, that means a lot to people to have that passport and what they've done over the years. I think it's absolutely fantastic.
Daniel, interesting story. It's called Passport to Success, DHL. It looks like a passport, right? One time our global CEO, he went through a passport checkpoint in a country. He had his passport, but he had this passport as well. He thought he had the right passport. He handed this over, and the customs guy stamped it, and he got through.
Wow, there you go.
That's a little side story anyway.
I'm not sure if that's saying something about the passport or the
maybe the country.
That's well, there you go. Wow.
So getting back to that message that we want to give, right? Yeah, for the students, for the parents, have a really close look at the organisation that you are trying to encourage, your child to go into, right? And make sure they've got the right values, they've got the right culture, and they want to develop and grow the employees.
Well, I think that's a fantastic message to all the parents and teachers and obviously career advisors out there. Obviously culture, making sure that students, when they're looking at businesses, they're really looking into the culture, because at the end of the day, going into for a particular role and think you're going to go in there do marketing or accounting or HR or whatever it may be, if the culture isn't there and there's not a culture in place, then you're going to be there for 5 minutes and you'll be looking elsewhere. So making sure, taking some of these notes down, culture, obviously a big part of any organisation when obviously considering where you're going to end up.
Sorry, Daniel, I saw those questions too. I know everyone's going through HSC right now. And I suppose my message or comment, right, that I wanted to hand out there is don't get too concerned, right? Don't get too worried, get through it. But just be aware it's just not about, the entrance aspects, etc. But the important thing about getting into an organisation is making sure you've also developed the soft skills, right, of how you can interact with people, right? That's incredibly important, how you communicate, how you interact, how you engage, right? And to me, the soft skills are just maybe as more important than maybe the technical skills that you'll learn through, going to university, etc. I'm not trying to degrade it, right? But I'm just saying the soft skills are incredibly important when you get into a major corporation.
Well, I think today's given students, career advisors, parents a really, really good insight into the DHL Express Australia business. I think as we touched on initially, I think when people see the brand, they probably see the brand and say, yep, I'm familiar with that brand. But in terms of getting a better understanding about what that looks like from a future, employee perspective and an employer of choice, I think that really demonstrates obviously the scale of the business, the different types of opportunities, the culture and everything in between. So I think if you're out there, career advice to parents, and you want to find out more about what a future career could look like for you at DHL Express Australia, then obviously you can jump onto the explorecareers.com.au website and find out everything that you need to know on their particular profile. Or of course go to the DHL Express Australia website and their careers site to find out everything you need to know. So I think from our perspective and my perspective, Gary, really appreciate your time today. Understand, we're all very, very busy. So for you to give the students and the schools half an hour of your time, I know they're going to be very, very appreciative. And we wish you and your team all the very best for the remainder of the year and into 2021.
Thanks, Daniel. And just a final message where we're going to continue to grow and we'll definitely want more quality employees. So come on board.
Thanks for joining us, Gary.
Okay, thanks, Daniel.
Cheers.